Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Sunday, August 17th, 2025. Haven't done a show in a bit. Haven't done a tape show in an even longer period of time, but been busy with fall camp going on. Hopefully, tomorrow on Monday, we learn some things about maybe who the first, 11 players on offense, the first 11 players on defense are going to be, but I'm going to have to keep it locked in here to BuckeyeHuddle.com to find out all of that, since we just never know what the plan is when it comes to the starting lineup. Wanted to talk to you all about the NC2A in Michigan. And I have certainly heard from many of you frustration, anger, disbelief, total belief about the punishment or lack thereof that came down. And it's not that I haven't had opinions myself. I have opinions. We all have opinions. I just wanted to let everybody have a chance to kind of sort through their feelings before I came out and weighed in with my feelings. And I'm sure there have been a lot of shows out there on our channel, on channels beyond us. Yes, other channels do exist. I highly recommend just hanging out on our channel. But a lot of opinions. Their Ohio State people are going to say one thing, Michigan people are going to say something else. People who don't have a dog in the fight may say something else entirely different. I can't get in the heads of the people that are not involved or the people that are involved up north. I mean, I could try to. I could try to get in their minds. Obviously, they probably feel like they got away with one. I mean, they as in Michigan, not they as in them. I don't know what kind of dog they have, in the fight. So, you kind of go from there. But when it comes to Ohio State, there was a lot that went on up there, and Ohio State certainly was one of the schools that Connor Stallions scouted. Now, I don't think that's why Ohio State fans necessarily got, you know, enraptured with this whole thing. The fact that it's the bitter rival means a lot more. The fact that, it's the historical nemesis means a lot more. I still think that if this were not Michigan and this were Minnesota or New Mexico or whoever, there would still be a segment of the Ohio State fan base that would be outraged just because of a couple of different variations. One, nobody likes a cheater. Two, Ohio State got popped for tattoos less than 20 years ago and was taken to the cleaners far and away over and above what Michigan had has on it. And Michigan's appealing, which of course you are. I mean, why not? I mean, all of this is going to be monetary fines, it sounds like anyway. So it does. I mean, it's not like you're trying to delay a postseason ban or something like that. So how do you compartmentalize all of this? How do you how do you have faith in a system where they said, yes, Michigan broke the rules vis-a-vis Michigan cheated. Yes, probably worth a postseason ban, but we opted not to. We thought that the financial side of this would be more impactful. maybe for an organization that's hard up for money. I mean, is all the fine money going to come up to for the end of the year kegger? I don't know what that is, but the move of saying we don't want to impact student athletes that were not involved in the scheme. Well, I challenge that by saying if you were recruited by Michigan since all of this broke, you were well aware that there were allegations. Maybe you didn't believe that they were going to be founded. Maybe you didn't believe that anything was going to come of it. I don't know. If you were on the roster at some point during the scheme, once again, you were aware that the allegations were there. Maybe you didn't witness it. Maybe you weren't a part of it, but you weren't directly a part of it. Oh, magically we know to go into a run defense here. Damn, that Connor Stallions is just really good. But you've had ample opportunity to transfer out. If it's that terrible, if it's that damning, if you feel that strongly about it, you had every opportunity at the end of each, 2 windows a year to transfer out to a program that was not under investigation. So I know how most Ohio State fans are approaching this as an L, not as a dub. Even with, it being stated that Michigan did in fact cheat and everything else with no real teeth to any sort of punishment, it's hard to feel like justice was served, if you will. And I think it puts even more pressure on Ohio State to snap the streak this year. Ohio State has to snap that streak this year, plain and simple. Ohio State is number 2 preseason in one poll, number 3 preseason in the other poll. Where's Michigan? In the teens? In the mid-teens? I mean, if both of those rankings hold up all the way through the year, we're in for another humdinger of a game. There'll be losses along the way. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're hoping they all happen up north and not in Columbus. But already in 24, the argument was made, well, the scheme is behind us, everything has moved on, and there's no question that this win that Michigan had was not involved with a Stallions-esque type of scheme. Ohio State then messes around and wins the national championship, which of course highlights the absurdity of Ohio State's game plan in 24, trying to beat Michigan in a rock fight instead of trying to beat Michigan in a football game. Something that I still do not, will not, maybe even cannot ever understand. I don't understand how exactly that happened when they were meeting in the team rooms, in the Woody, in the coaches' rooms, and they said, this is our best chance to win the game. Well, obviously, that didn't work so well. Gone are Jim Knowles. Gone is Chip Kelly. Enter Matt Patricia. Elevate Brian Hartline. Do we see different people pounding on the table to do it the way that the team has gone in the previous 11 games in the season? So I don't know, but I think there's that much more pressure, because if you can't beat them in the courts, so to speak, you got to beat them on the football field. And the truth is, you got to just beat them on the football field. Everything else will figure itself out. You got to beat them on the field. So I think that because if Ohio State had won 2 of the last 3 against them, yeah, everybody in Ohio State in Buckeye Nation would love to see Michigan suffer, see the diehard big names that are on social have to give impassioned, angry, diatribes, whatever, monologues, I guess is what I was looking for. These giant impassioned monologues. But with Ohio State being on the wrong end in more than a couple of these games, I think it really is like a fork in the wound. I think Michigan escaping real punishment coupled with losing the last several editions of the game. It's just, it's oil meets oil. It's head meets brick wall. Any way you slice it, it hurts. It hurts people to think it through, to go through all of the emotions, to go through the range at that point. So, and I'm kind of doing a free thought thing. I didn't really prepare any notes for this show. We've been on for 11 minutes. 20 minutes before this point, I didn't have any thought of recording a show. But I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm just going to think about it on the air, and we'll see where it goes. But I do want to bring up a couple of other things. One, why should a program ever cooperate with the NCAA again? Michigan sure as heck didn't. It was said in the release that Michigan was uncooperative. I mean, this may end up becoming a $30 million fine. That's a lot of money. If I had $30 worth of super chats right now, I might eat a jar of pickles. I'm not, because I can't get super chats on a recorded show, but we can get super thanks. So jump in with a super thanks. If I do get $30 worth of super thanks on this show, I'll figure something out. Sat there and made myself happy for a minute and lost my train of thought. Lost my train of thought. But cooperating, Ohio State self-reports every single little infraction to, a kid finding a Skittle on the floor being an impermissible meal to whatever. And we hear the same thing every year that news dump happens. Oh, look at how out of control Ohio State is. They had to turn in, 24 violations, third degree or third level or whatever, the tamest to tame, the whatever the lesser version of jaywalking is, that as compared to some, other major heinous crimes we've seen on the recruiting trail elsewhere. So I don't know why you cooperate. I don't know why you cooperate. I really think that Ohio State needs to have a real conversation internally about how it's going to handle stuff like that. I don't think that there's any reason to cooperate. Not pulling for Ohio State to be under any sort of investigation anytime soon. No, I'm not tipping pitches. Just saying that don't cooperate. I mean, that one is just, is plain and simple. But, it comes down to more than that. It comes down to more than that. And that's the self-reporting as well. And I touched upon it. I was trying to remember what my other point was. I'm pretty pointless these days. Trying to remember what my other point was. And I've always said that when the NC2A arrives on your campus, don't expect to get busted for the thing they were initially there looking for. They'll find something else. Something else. Some things else. So I just don't think that I don't see any of the benefit there. Now, I'm not in the compliance department. It's not, it's not my job to keep the school out of trouble or anything like that. You know me, I'm not necessarily going to be the one that's going to be reporting that the school is getting in trouble, but I'm certainly, it's not my job to keep them out of trouble. But as an observer who seen the faces, knows the names, what have you, my advice there would be, if the NC2A is only going to come after everybody's wallet, why put yourself out there in a position to run afoul? It was such a prolonged investigation, and there's still aspects that I have not seen addressed, which you wonder, if is that ever going to be looked into? Is that in a separate investigation? Should there be another notice of allegations that we should be awaiting? I don't know. I know people at the NC2As, not in that department, not in that department. So I can't just call up my buddy and say, "Hey, man, can you go down the hall and see if this name is on the board?" So, what are your thoughts? I know that I'm not doing this show live, so I'm not getting immediate feedback, but you guys can use the comment section. What were your thoughts on the penalties? I'm not going to ask too hard, too lenient, just right, because I know that too lenient is going to get everything, and the other two aren't going to get anything. Now, it doesn't mean that this won't be seen by Michigan fans who will be like, "We got the book thrown at us. No wonder we're appealing." You know, don't play poker with those guys because they're FOS by saying that. But I want to know what your thoughts are. And does do you agree with my theory that this light punishment puts even more pressure on Ohio State in the game? That doesn't put any more pressure on Michigan. Even if Michigan loses the game, their fans are still going to be like, whatever. It's about time, that, twice a decade you're able to get us or something like that. So I want to know your thoughts. And I will try to do at least one tape show and maybe a live show this next week. But again, I just really wanted to address this. I know that it's it's not going to be forgotten about. It's not like everybody's going to be like, "Well, it's time to move on." But there are going to be people that are going to be like, "It's time to move on. We're inside of 2 weeks of the regular season. We're going to have college football in less than a week. Kansas State, Iowa State in Ireland will be the premier game of week 0, or pretty weak week 0, if you will." But interact with me. Hit me in the comments. I will read all your comments, I promise. Maybe we'll pick a topic to talk about this week as well, based out of all of that. But with a rambling strand of thoughts, I'm your host, Kevin Noon, here on the Big Me Kickoff. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.